Most people believe they understand evil. They believe monsters are born different, that some humans come into this world already broken, already dangerous, already beyond saving. It's a comforting idea because it creates distance. It allows us to look at history's darkest figures and say, that could never be me. But what if that belief is completely wrong? What if the people we call monsters were not born that way at all? What if they were shaped, slowly and quietly, by forces most of us don't even notice? Because the truth about what really creates monsters like Hitler is not what you think. Before he became one of the most feared figures in history, he was not powerful, not respected, not even successful. He was a struggling young man trying to become an artist, rejected again and again, living in poverty, ignored by the world around him. There was nothing extraordinary about him. No sign that he would one day become the face of unimaginable destruction. And that is exactly what makes this story uncomfortable, because if someone so ordinary could become something so extreme, then maybe the difference between normal and monstrous is not as big as we want to believe. To understand this, we need to stop looking at the end of the story and start looking at the beginning. Because monsters are not created in a single moment. They are built over time, piece by piece, through a combination of environment, emotion, and influence. It starts with something simple, the world around you. When a society is stable, people feel safe, hopeful, and connected. But when that stability breaks, everything changes. After World War I, Germany was not just defeated, it was humiliated. The economy collapsed, jobs disappeared, and millions of people felt angry, lost, and desperate. And when people feel that way, they don't look for logic. They look for answers. More specifically, they look for someone to blame. This is where the first shift happens. When pain becomes widespread, it doesn't stay quiet. It turns into frustration. And frustration, when it has no clear solution, begins to search for a target. Humans are not comfortable with uncertainty. We want reasons, we want explanations, and most importantly, we want someone responsible. In that kind of environment, ideas that would normally sound extreme suddenly start to feel acceptable. Not because they are true, but because they offer clarity. And clarity is powerful, especially when people feel lost. But environment alone is not enough. The next layer is personal. Pain, rejection, failure, these things shape how a person sees the world. When someone experiences repeated failure, especially when they feel misunderstood or ignored, it can create a deep sense of resentment, and that resentment doesn't disappear on its own. It builds. It grows. It waits. Some people channel it into growth. Others, however, turn it into anger. And anger, when it isn't controlled, becomes dangerous. Because anger always looks for direction. It needs somewhere to go, someone to blame, something to fight. Now imagine a person carrying that anger, living in a society that is already filled with frustration, surrounded by people who are also searching for answers. This is where things begin to accelerate, because once a person finds a narrative that explains their pain, even if it's false, they start to believe it. And belief is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology. When you believe something strongly enough, you stop questioning it. You stop analyzing it. You start defending it. And eventually, you start acting on it. This is where power enters the equation. Power does not create who you are. It reveals it. When someone with unresolved anger gains influence, attention, or control, they don't suddenly become something new. They simply become more of what they already are. Their voice gets louder, their ideas spread faster, and their actions carry more weight. And if those ideas are built on resentment or blame, then that power amplifies those emotions instead of controlling them. But even this is not the most dangerous part. The most dangerous shift happens when others begin to follow. Because no monster becomes powerful alone. They require something else, something far more unpredictable: people. When individuals come together under a shared belief, something strange happens. Responsibility begins to fade. Decisions no longer feel personal, actions no longer feel individual. It becomes we instead of I. And when that shift happens, guilt becomes weaker. People start doing things they would never do alone, simply because they feel like part of something bigger. This is known as group psychology, and it has shaped some of the darkest events in human history. When people are surrounded by others who think the same way, doubt disappears. Questioning becomes rare. And obedience becomes normal. In that environment, extreme ideas are no longer challenged, they are reinforced. And when those ideas are repeated enough times, they start to feel like truth. Not because they are correct, but because they are familiar. At this point, the transformation is almost complete. What started as a normal individual, shaped by environment, influenced by pain, empowered by belief, and supported by a group, begins to lose something essential: self-awareness. The ability to step back and question one's own actions fades away. And without that, there are no limits. Because limits come from reflection, from doubt, from empathy. When those disappear, actions become more extreme, more aggressive, more dangerous. And this is the part most people misunderstand. Evil does not usually feel evil to the person doing it. It feels justified. It feels necessary. It feels like the right thing to do. That is what makes it so powerful and so dangerous. Because when someone believes they are right, they will go further than someone who knows they are wrong. They will push harder, justify more, and ignore consequences. So when we ask, what really created monsters like Hitler, the answer is not simple. It is not one event, one moment, or one decision. It is a chain. A chain of circumstances, emotions, beliefs, and influences that slowly reshape a person over time. It is environment turning into frustration, frustration turning into anger, anger turning into belief, belief turning into action, and action being reinforced by others. And here is the most uncomfortable truth of all. None of these steps are rare. None of them are unique to one time or one place. They exist everywhere, in different forms, at different levels. The same psychological patterns that created some of the darkest moments in history are still part of human nature today. The only difference is the scale, the context, and the choices people make along the way. So maybe the real question is not how monsters are created. Maybe the real question is how they are prevented. Because if we continue to believe that evil is something we are born with, we will never recognize the warning signs when they appear. We will continue to distance ourselves from the possibility, instead of understanding it. And that is exactly how the cycle continues, because monsters are not always obvious in the beginning. They do not start as monsters. They start as humans. And under the right conditions, with the wrong influences, and without the right boundaries, those humans can slowly become something else. Something darker. Something we struggle to understand. Something we label as a monster without realizing how it was created in the first place. And that is why the truth is so unsettling. Because it forces us to confront something we would rather ignore. The idea that the line between normal and monstrous is not fixed. It is not permanent. It is something that can shift, depending on circumstances, decisions, and influence. Which means the story of history's darkest figures is not just about them. It is about human nature itself. So the next time you hear about someone who did something unimaginable, don't just ask how they could do it. Ask what happened that led them there. Because understanding that process is the only way to ensure it doesn't repeat. And maybe, just maybe, the answer will change the way you see the world and the people in it.